90 minutes. That's all it took for one careless joke in an elevator to become the hinge that swung a man's life open, and he had no idea it was coming. Picture this: a corporate lobby, glass and polished tile, a group of people talking quietly in another language, and a woman walking by with a cardboard box. A senior manager laughs, makes a comment meant to be private. "Look at the help," and keeps walking. He thinks it's a joke, he thinks nobody understands him. But he's wrong, and that single breath of arrogance sets a story in motion that changes more than just one career. My name for this story is Elena Martinez. She's the one with the box, the one who used to mop floors at midnight and answer phones by day. Elena now sits at the head of a boardroom in a navy suit, steady, composed, the kind of presence that makes people who've spent a lifetime underestimating others realize they were wrong. And the man who made the joke, his name is Mark Chen. 12 years at North Point Systems smooth tie, comfortable in his assumptions, confident that the world still bends the way he expects it to. That's the cast. Here's the rest. Act 1. Hook. We open with the elevator scene because it's sharp cinematic, a small act that reveals a lot. Mark is standing with two visiting partners from overseas, chatting in Mandarin, laughing about some inside thing. Elena walks by carrying a box, not glamorous, just moving through her day, and Mark leans over, voice low but loud enough, and says, "Look at the help. Probably here to clean up after us." He gestures like she's part of the furniture. You can feel the room cool. His colleagues squirm because even private jokes leak shame. Elena hears everything, but she doesn't flinch. She presses the elevator button, waits. The doors close. The camera follows Mark as he walks into a conference room expecting routine news, promotions, maybe quarterly talk. And he sees her again, but not as a joke. She's in a suit at the head of the table sitting next to CEO Richard Hale. His smile dies. He remembers what he said. That's the hook, the instant when privilege meets consequence. Act 2. The rise and the pivot. 6 months earlier, North Point is on the brink of losing a major partnership in Shanghai. There's a conference call going sideways, translators, fumbling tempers, rising $40 million at stake, and jobs on the line. Executives have been in the room since dawn. Coffee stale, screens dim. Elena was on the fringes then. Director of Global Liaisons, not yet noticed enough to move the needle, but she brought the analysis Richard asked for yesterday, and when she heard the call unravel, she asked one quiet question. "May I try speaking with them directly?" Heads turned like the room smelled of rain. She spoke Mandarin, sure, but more than that, she spoke their language of respect. She didn't just translate phrases. She translated tone, context, the cultural rhythms that let pride stay intact. She quoted a proverb, softened a line, gave the other side face, and the anger on the other end of the line melted into laughter. The deal survived. The board noticed. But Elena's preparation didn't start with one brave step at a conference room door. It goes back to a studio apartment in a working-class neighborhood, to a day shift answering phones and a night shift cleaning offices. She heard executives say, "We need someone who knows Mandarin," and she thought maybe that could be me. So she signed up for free community classes. A retired linguistics professor, Mrs. Lee, saw her there and pushed her harder than anyone else, gave her books practice tones late into the night. Elena saved tips in a jar, took exams, learned not only words but the way meaning changes when respect is built into speech. 15 years of quiet work. That's the real climb. When Elena finally stepped into that tense call, she came not as a miracle, but as a deliberate, prepared force. Richard Hale pulled her aside afterward and said, "Report to me, starting Monday." That was recognition, finally. Meanwhile, Mark, who had made the elevator joke, was still wearing confidence like armor. He hadn't seen the years of quiet rehearsal. He hadn't seen the jade pendant Mrs. Lee had given Elena for resilience. He only saw how she interrupted his little world, and in his mind he reacted like a man whose map of the world was being redrawn. That's where the pivot happens, the moral test. Richard could have fired Mark on the spot. He had grounds. The company could make an example and close the book. Instead, Elena chose a different route. Not mercy, not weakness. Strategy. She made Mark accountable. She put him on probation. She made him report to her every morning. She assigned him to the Asia trip. She required written apologies, and most importantly, she made him teach. "You'll lead our unconscious bias sessions," she told him, "because sometimes the people who learn the most are the ones who had the farthest to fall." She didn't say this to humiliate. She said it to transform, to force real change instead of performative punishment. It was a gamble on the idea that people can change if held to real work, and that leadership sometimes means building someone up to prevent the next mistake. Act 3. The Victory and the Ripple. The travel scenes are where everything gets cinematic. In Shanghai, Elena pours tea. Herself serves the partners, first recognizes calligraphy styles in the lobby, asks the right questions about family legacy, not about money. Mark watches, eager to learn, embarrassed but watching. The room that used to be skeptical becomes human, and the partners agree to expand the deal by tens of millions. In Tokyo, the presentation setup fails. AV won't connect, the translator is stuck in traffic. And Elena does something Mark wouldn't dream of. She sets down her laptop, picks up a whiteboard marker, bows, properly exchanges business cards with 2 hands, and speaks in Japanese. She references Kaizen and omotenashi. She draws market scenarios and explains partnership mechanics with cultural humility. The room listens, they trust her, they sign. Back home, the company gathers for an all-hands. Elena walks to the stage with a light on her face and tells her story. Foster homes, community classes, nights, cleaning offices. The professor who put a jade pendant in her hand and said, "Wear this when you need to remember." She calls Mark up and gives him the chance to apologize publicly. He does it poorly at first, hands shaking, voice uneven. But then he speaks a truth: "I was wrong. I made assumptions." Elena doesn't gloat. She says the company will not tolerate discrimination, but she will give people a path to change. Then, the moment that kills cynicism, partners from China and Japan call in live to commend her leadership, executives who doubted her stand and applaud, and an entire company begins the work of seeing hidden talent. Custodians who speak 3 languages, receptionists with engineering degrees, people whose resumes hid whole lives. But the story doesn't end with applause. Elena launches programs, a scholarship fund for language and cultural studies in Mrs. Lee's name, a talent audit to find the skills people hide, and a mentorship program with foster care agencies. People get promoted, sometimes overnight, sometimes years later, but the change is structural, not symbolic. This is where the film slows and lets you sit with the cost, because transformation is messy. Mark now teaches bias workshops. He struggles, he falters, he learns to listen instead of perform. Some days he succeeds. Some days he still stumbles. The company isn't magically healed. Not every conversation goes well, but more doors open. More people are seen. Jasmine, who once answered phones, now leads customer experience. Luis, who maintained facilities, now helps design products. Maya, a scholarship recipient, studies international business with a confidence she didn't have before. Now, here's the controversial note that keeps people talking. Did Elena do the right thing by keeping Mark employed and making him the vehicle for change instead of firing him and writing a press release? Some will say no, that certain comments deserve immediate termination and a zero-tolerance policy. Others will say yes, that punishment without education leaves the root problem untouched. Elena's choice was deliberate. Kill one man's career, and nothing changes systemically. Force him to dismantle what made him dangerous, and you might prevent the next hurt. It's a judgment call on justice versus transformation, on public accountability versus long-term reform. So, what do you think? If you were Elena, would you have fired him or trained him? If you were Mark, what would it take for you to change? Have you ever been the person underestimated, or the person doing the underestimating? Tell me in the comments, because this story matters only if it makes you look twice at the people you pass every day. The barista, the night janitor, the receptionist. Someone's next big idea, their grit, their secret practice might be right under your feet. If this moved you, share it. If it made you uncomfortable, good, talk about that. And if you've got a story where someone surprised you or where you surprised yourself, I want to read it. Let's turn this into a conversation. Not about scoring points, but about what we can actually do when we notice talent hiding in plain sight. Comment below, hit like if you're in, and subscribe if you want more stories that push us to see better.